whoever thinks that apartheid ended in 1994 should really think again. Because today, racism isn't in the law. Apartheid isn't in the books. It's an off-book type of situation. Something that is silent, something that is underground, underlying. It's in our group chats, our friend lists, even who your neighbors will accept. And if you think it's gone, you are delusional. You're about to see how wrong you are.
They can't talk to us like that every time. They're going to shoot us. Why the black people? It's your friends. Because of you staying here for 2 years in our street, in her street. She said, why the black people is coming to your house. And that's why. There was never a problem with black people in this because of you moving in. So why I go to court then, and then the court told me on Friday the judge will be there because they cannot sign it off. It's a judge.
Gans says he fears for his daughter's safety, especially because her cousins from the township visit her often.
The child's mother is black. She's also staying location in Mamateleki. And the cousins of the sister's children, they come here and play here. And the kids from school, she's got black kids. She's growing up in location. Okay, so now she's staying with me, but she's going location. She's used to people. We used to people not to call other people names in the street and at school. They get hearings if they told the children are teasing each other.
Some of Gans's employees in his wood business have left their jobs, saying they fear for their lives.
We can walk everywhere we want to at any given time, so because this is a free country. Then he told me that he's going to blast us, or else they're going to shoot us at us. Killing us and our friend, and that our friend must go stay in the location, because I asked him, whenever we come to our friend, how is he expecting us to get to him if we must use that street again? Then he told us, then he, which is our white friend, must go stay in the location with these friends then.
You know, it's fascinating. You know, when I think about it, I was fascinated to discover that we still have individuals who, well, in a literal sense, see themselves as superior. But that's not what I'm here about today. Even though the apartheid legacy ended in 1994, its structural legacies persist today. And it's something that we go on to see on our day-to-day lives. I mean, if you think about this spatial segregation, unequal resources that is spread among South Africans, and racialized identity norms, etc., you tend to understand that the apartheid and the impact apartheid had on South Africans, it's so severe that it affects us today, and I feel like it's still going to affect us in the coming years and in coming generations, should there be another generation. I believe that apartheid has sort of built a backdrop for what we see now, because racism isn't just overt racist remarks or something that is more in your face. Racism is more subtle, a control of boundaries. When I think about it, I mean, South Africa remains deeply unequal along racial terms. I mean, if you were to think about wealth and access, education, etc., these inequalities feed into the newer, less legal but still powerful ways racism shows up today. There's a lot of research that has been going on, especially since this apartheid mentality and this apartheid, our history is so profound and interesting to some people. And it's, I mean, you obviously assume, or you naturally assume, that our research is going to continue to actually see if it's actually gone. I don't know if it makes sense, but research does, however, show a shift in identities among younger South Africans. I just wanted to refer back to the situation or that movement that was happening a while ago about criminalizing, or the criminalization of the word colored. People define themselves today in groups, and people who always, it's the reason why it's the reason how this whole race ideology, this race mentality came into play. You know what I'm talking about? People do define themselves in groups, and when someone from your in-group acts in a different way, in ways that cross expected boundaries, the group may respond with disapproval or policing to maintain identity boundaries. Now, this thing I was doing research on, I actually came across it on a news article, something called the STD, known as a social dominance theory. So basically what happens is, groups that historically held power tend to seek to maintain hierarchy. So according to a study I read done by UNISA on this topic, this specific topic and multiple other topics, Even without legal apartheid, many white or privileged groups may still unconsciously or consciously enforce norms that preserve their dominance or status. There's been multiple cases, especially like Johannesburg, about, I'm going to refer to it again, the colored situation. There's been cases in Johannesburg of colored people, quote, experiencing negative racial stereotyping. However, we've got to understand that the racial designation or category colored does not refer to the idea of being a non-white or black as used in other racialized national contexts, but instead in the South African context it refers to an intermediate racial status. But there's always going to be instances that I've seen with my own eyes, heard with my own ears. Here we're going to see a group of South Africans even being discriminated against, and in Westbury specific, coloreds and probably all over South Africa report that old apartheid era stereotypes, like them being pushed as aggressive, alcoholic, criminals, still apply in their everyday lives. And now these may just seem as like researches that don't really affect us in our daily lives. I mean, that's what I thought in the beginning when I was trying to piece together this video. These may seem as stuff that is like, okay, it's obvious, you know what I'm talking about, but it's in that neglect, you know, that sort of neglect of this type of stuff that still pushes racism and apartheid silently. I believe. I mean, you know, UNICEF conducted a poll 2 years ago, and according to its findings, 68% of the youth in South Africa still do face discrimination every day in school, workplaces, the community. Furthermore, the South African Human Rights Commission reports racism remains the top complaint in the 2024-2025 financial year. Just imagine. Am I the only one? Like, what type of... Bro, what type of... Am I the only one who's shocked by this? Am I the only one who's never heard this anywhere before? Like, how racism, discrimination remains the top complaint in South Africa? How many of you knew that? Now, this may just be seen as an institutional voice, right? It may just be seen as an institutional voice, but a while ago, you know, stuff happened in South Africa. There's incidents that happened in South Africa. And a while ago, a story that I came across, so Ronaldo Gous, who I do follow on YouTube, and I think he was a DA member and a member of parliament at some point. An old video of him surfaced on the internet, a video in which he made anti-black remarks. Not to mention Julius Malema also being found guilty of hate speech a while ago. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like racism. It's everywhere, but it's like taken lightly nowadays. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like, bro, we've worshipped apartheid to the point where it's a norm. Now, you know, like how the N-word is now being normalized, you know, music and pop culture, and like, you know what I'm talking about, despite its historical significance. It's almost like apartheid has become that. I don't know, you know what I'm saying? The point I'm trying to make is that the new face of racism often involves people assuming power or privilege by race. And we see it, you know, politicians, Gaten McKenzie, Julius Malema himself, in business, in school, and in social gatekeeping, even without overtly invoking racial slurs. You know, without diverting from the issue of Ronaldo and Julius Malema himself, politicians, parties, and social movements sometimes invoke race or colonialism narratives to mobilize and to shift the blame. It's almost like they sort of want to gain loyalty through these narratives. You know what I'm saying? It's funny because it's not just the racism and apartheid, black and white. It also, I've seen it also in a xenophobic type of way. You know how most of them now, the most current one is how they be pushing stories about, or narratives about how Africans, I mean, people who are not South African, how foreign nationals be doing this, how foreign nationals be taking our jobs and stuff like that. You know, the hate against another African man. You know what I'm saying? It's racism. It comes in different forms. Whiteness often remains the default or standard in many social settings. It's the reason why some white people or white guys be criticized for having black friends or like colored friends, criticized by other white people, just like in this video. I used in the intro, I think. It's so funny to discover that there's people who are still brainwashed in today's day and age. Brainwashed. So brainwashed, bro, you're almost like a zombie. Now don't get me wrong. It's definitely the same, vice versa. You know, we do see, especially in South Africa, you do see black people who also get like questioned or like sort of discriminated by their own black people for having white friends and stuff like that. But based on my experience and what I've seen, bro, it's not something that is done often. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't even know such. You know what I'm saying? Like I've seen it maybe on TV or something, but like I've never seen it in person. A black man hating another person because his white friend. Now come on. Unless I know, but it's different when it's in a different setting, so like at work and stuff like that, because of power dynamics and stuff like that. But it's different. You know what I'm saying? It's different. The walls of apartheid weren't just bricks; they were in our minds, built daily with silence and separation, and passed on to the next generation. We've literally inherited their mindset. The walls of apartheid may be gone, but the fences in our mind are still standing.